Welcome guys to another episode with the Doomed Hell. Today is going to be a longer, I guess a long-winded video because I have a lot of exciting, semi-technical things to talk about. Yes, I'll be mostly just reading out some of the information I know about these boards, but also talking about some of my personal experience on them. What are we doing today? Well, basically we're going to be spinning off a bit of X79 versus X99. We're going to get into specifically X79. The main advantages when we were talking about X79 was actually the fact that although it lost a bit in performance, it made it up in some features, some legacy features, for instance, and with overclocking, it would gain back that performance and sometimes outbeat X99. And considering that X99 and X79 are almost the same price range, it just makes sense for a lot of people to go with X79. So today we're going to be looking at some boards that are worth pretty much like the main boards to be purchasing when thinking of X79 for overclocking reasons, for tweaking reasons, and for just price and availability reasons, and also features, of course, some unique features we're going to be talking about. So let's start with some context. Why am I making this video this way? Well, basically, yes, I know these, like GIMP, BuildZoid will do these kinds of videos where he talks about motherboards. I'm not really going to get into that depth, and also, it's not that I've kind of inspired myself from his videos, but mostly just how he makes them. I was supposed to make a video like this right when X79 versus X99 had come out, the original release. And the only reason why I didn't do it was, firstly, I thought I would have to edit the video myself. And when I saw BuildZoid doing it his way, I thought that was genius, especially for the kind of quality I'm looking for. I just want to, quickly edit it and send it out so that people can understand what's happening. And yes, I'm very sorry for the mic quality. I don't know why. Radeon Relive just doesn't want to pick in my mic. So the quality is going to be really bad because it's filming off of my webcam. But let's hope it just cuts it. And let's get right into it. So the first motherboard we're going to be looking at is the Rampage IV Extreme. This is kind of your run-of-the-mill best X79 motherboard. If you ask anyone that knows anything about X79 or, in general, people will tell you Aces. So obviously with X79, they will tell you Rampage IV Extreme. And I've looked at Rampage IV Extremes for so long on eBay and Kijiji. Every time I see X79 overclocker, it's always one of these boards. So I decided to bring a spin-off. This is the Rampage IV Extreme Black Edition, which came with a couple of features out of the box. They're not worth talking about because, well, you're probably not going to see them. Considering you're buying used most of the time here, it's not going to be important. But let's get into some of the features. The main thing with this board that kind of beats out everyone else is that it brings in overclocking features. It actually brings in LN2 features here. This thing, let me do that again. This, oh my goodness. My color changed for some reason. This goddamn thing. This thing here, and this thing, and I guess this thing a bit, and that's pretty much it. What are these features? Well, that's simple. Here you can solder some parts of your boards to sensors, which is cool. This is another one of these things where you could put in a voltmeter, I'm pretty sure, amp meter thingy. So that's cool. This thing will give power to your PCIe slots, which is nice for your, this will basically put less strain on your PSU and will be useful when your multi-GPU setups have, well, you're overclocking them and they're just not giving you enough juice out of their like small 4 or 6 pin chips. And then obviously this is dual BIOS. So dual BIOS is great. What's this thing right here? Well, from what I saw with my Rampage III Extreme way back in the day, I'm pretty sure this is to disable different memory slots. So you have, this is a quad channel, so this is to disable each channel individually. That's what I remember. I'm not sure if that's actually what it is, but take my word for it for what it is. This is great. You get a nice postcode right at the square right of your motherboard, which is, I feel, is the best place to put it overall. You know, putting it here is okay, but it's just not the same. This is really the best, in my opinion. And yeah, that's pretty much the main features on this board. If we're looking at the VRMs, they're nothing to scoff at, but, you know, against today's standards, it's not great. This is a true 8-phase of 480 amps. That's pretty much all I know about it. I know that Asus has been using it for years, which is neither good nor bad. I think maybe on the newer boards it's bad, on the older boards it's good. It gives you a standardized VRM. So, what can you do with this board? Well, you can put in any kind of chip you want, especially non-Xeon chips. Overclock the shit out of it, even LN2 it if you want, or, you know, just use a chill or anything you really want. Just stick it into LN2 mode and get a lot more features out of this board, a lot more, you know, sensory specs, and just be happy with it. That's pretty much what it does best. That's what you expect out of X79 at this point, in my opinion. Daily driver boards are great for X79 because you have so many PCIe slots. This one has a good amount, you know, 5 plus a small one. That's good enough. It has normal SATA amounts, you know, 8 SATA. But one thing you have to remember is this is old school SATA, so you have, this is SATA 2, this is SATA 3, so here you're getting half the bandwidth. So that's not great, but it's good enough. You also get 2 USB 3 front panels and 2 USB 2s, which is okay. And you get a shit ton of fan stuff. A lot of fans were expected on this board, especially with the tiny, or, you know, relatively tiny 8-phase VRM here. It is expected of you to put fans on here if you're going to do some LN2 overclocking. So that's something to keep in mind. What's cool about it, about this motherboard specifically, is you get this nice little fan here. The I/O is cool. You get an external SATA, which is a feature that we don't see today. You get this blue port here that I don't know anything about, but I know it exists. You don't get all that many USB 3s, which kind of sucks, but what do you expect from an old X79 board? And yeah, that's all you really get. You only get one Ethernet, no Wi-Fi. The audio chip on here is not half bad, but compared to, like, you know, like True Audio from AMD, it's not great either. So I wouldn't really say anything specific about the audio. So here's the thing. There's this board, which is about $200, and then you have this board, which is the refresh of this board. Which, by the way, Asus loves refreshes. And then you have this bad boy, which I'm going to get into, and why I think this is probably the better board in general. But, you know, we'll get into it. So let's get into this board. So this is a Rampage IV Black Edition. This came out around 2014 when the Intel 4000X series boards came out, and it has a lot of the same features. They kind of changed some of the placement of the features, like this button's different. These buttons are at a different place. The soldering points are a bit harder to get to, but who cares really? You do get more SATA, which is cool. You do get an actual Supreme Effects audio setup here, which this is really nice. It's high quality, not necessarily for like high amperage setups, like audiophile setups, but, you know, passable for everyone else. And another thing you'll notice is you get less PCIe slots, so that's kind of a negative. Although, looking at this one, what you'll notice is you can only run 4-way SLI, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one will never touch it. So unless you're running 5 GPUs for, like, you know, Blender or something like that, you're never going to really use that extra PCIe slot. So this is not a bad downgrade, considering you get more SATA, among other things. And the other things, I mean, the rear I/O is much better. What you'll notice here is you get actual Wi-Fi. You get 10 USB 3.0s, 2 USB 2s. You still keep that PS2. So it's just a better rear, to be honest. Otherwise, the VRM is pretty similar. I think it's a 12-phase, a 12-phase drop to a 6-phase, which is also standard Asus stuff. It's just slightly better. I wouldn't really talk about anything else because that's pretty much the only differences, the only real differences that I can tell. Where's the other rear I/O? So you have one, the front, you'll have one front USB 3. So I think that's where you kind of made your sacrifice for your rear. You took it out of your front, you put it in the rear. Okay, that makes sense. Well, anyway, you weren't going to use that extra USB 3 for most cases. So effectively, these are pretty much the same boards. This one will be probably easier to find. Well, not the non-black edition, the one that's like red. This one is probably a bit harder to find, but otherwise they're very similar. Let's get into something that's harder, a bit harder to find, but also a lot cooler. So this is ASRock's kind of, what do you call it? Like answer to Rampage IV Extreme. It's the Extreme11. So ASRock at this time liked to use the Extreme nomenclature. So they had Extreme 3, Extreme 7, Extreme 9, Extreme 11. Extreme 9 and 11 were kind of the highest end boards. But the reality is that at this point, Asus were the LN2 kings. EVGA kind of followed in their footsteps, but I don't think there's any good X79 EVGA boards. But ASRock, what they kind of went for was the workstation users. Right off the bat, what you'll notice on this board is these bad boys. I think it's that. I might be totally wrong, but what I'm talking about is PLX chips. What they are is basically chips that allow to split your PCIe lanes. So they basically have their own scheduler, and they take your PCIe information and they cram it. It's kind of like multi-threading, but for PCIe lanes. And so they're really useful to give you this amount of PCIe lanes. These are all X16 technically, from the size. They can run for basically the effectiveness is effectively what this can do is you have 4-way SLI plus you have your audio chip. What do you call it? Audio card. Plus you have your accelerator card. Plus you have whatever the fuck else you do on your motherboard. So this is a true workstation motherboard in my opinion. What you'll notice, however, is that you sacrifice the dual BIOS. You have a single BIOS on this. I do think you have a safe boot though. That's kind of, that kind of sucks for some people. You don't have any soldering points from what I can see. There's way too much happening on the board. That's a big thing with this board, is that there's too much happening. So it's actually really easy to scrape off something on this board and just kill the board entirely. And that really sucks. So these are kind of a little bit less reliable than, your typical stuff. On that note, however, this has a 22-phase VRM. 22 plus 2 to be exact. This thing is no joke. This thing will cool itself. I don't think you ever need a fan on this thing. It also has a similar setup where you still need to power up your PCIe lanes. This uses an old, one of these old power connectors. I don't know the name of that, but not great. There's no Wi-Fi on here, which is not great if you were looking for something more like this, a bit more modern. But it makes up with the sheer amount of, SATA ports. Unless these two are SATA 2, these are all SATA 3. That's 10 SATA 3s. So that's really good. It also has onboard SAS, which means that if you have SAS hard drives, you can run it off of this, no problem. You also have your very own sound chip, which is self-isolated, among other features. This is just an amazing board. It's really fucking good. It has everything you may want from a you know, the X79 pretty much. The only thing I think is, let's look at the I/O real quick. So the I/O has, oh, the I/O has legacy, what's that called? It's so old that I forget the name. It's pre-Thunderbolt. It has a pre-Thunderbolt port. It has an an external SATA, 2 external SATA ports. It has a bunch of USB 2. It has 4 USB 3s. It has 2 Ethernet ports, which is good. I think one of them might be, I don't think it's gigabit because it's too old. But you do have a PS2 port as well, and you have a clear CMOS button. No BIOS flash pack, however, and yeah, obviously no Wi-Fi. So the rear I/O is a bit sad compared to, say, like the Rampage IV Black, but considering they're about the same rarity, and you get all of this, and all of this, and all of this, and this, which the 4 Black Edition doesn't have, and this, which the 4 Black Edition probably cries at night about. Yeah, this thing is decked out. And here's the truth, is that you're gonna find these boards around the same price, unless you're really unlucky and you have to go on eBay or AliExpress. Then you're gonna see that this is the cheapest. This is cheaper than this, but still pretty expensive. The ASRock boards, they never sold a lot, and I think AliExpress factories never really got a lot of them. And eBay, well, I mean, not that many people bought them in the end. So that kind of sucks. Oh, I was wrong. The PLX chips are here. This is where the PLX chips are. Yeah, these are really too small. I think they're probably like VRMs or something. But still really cool. This is like the all-out board. This is the Lamborghini of, the Countach of X79 boards. The all-out, crazy, probably useless, but still crazy board that you can get on X79. And I might get one of these in the near future. Notice that it's not as overclocker friendly. For LN2 users, there's no point of using this. In fact, I would cry if an LN2 user bought this and started overclocking the shit out of their stuff, because it's the second you have just the slightest liquid nitrogen touch this board, I would be scared. There would be serious consequences to doing that on this board. But yeah, so out of all these boards, what would I get? I would get whatever you can find. If you were more of a mainstream daily driver, I would go with this board, the Rampage IV Black. If you kind of just want to find a board that's cheap, this is the one, the non-black or the black if you can find the black. And if you can find one and you want an all-out good workstation board that'll last you forever for 3D rendering, for gaming, for all these things all in one, I would go with this board. And that's not to say that you're going to get M.2 or anything. So if you do want M.2, probably look elsewhere, or get yourself this board and then just deck these lower ports out with M.2. This board will do that as well. This board will be a bit harder, but you could still get M.2. It's just not, you're not going to get that bandwidth, right? So those are my thoughts on these boards. I really hope you guys enjoyed. This is much longer video. I might have rambled a bit too long, but it's important to know, right? This is as an X79 enthusiast, it's like, if you don't talk about it, then how are you going to know what to buy, right? Overall, I think that you should look at the board for the features and also what the community thinks about them. So I know this board really well. I know this board a little bit because they were talking about it right when it came out, and I know this board very slightly. So I didn't do all my research I might have needed to do, but realistically, if you look online, you're going to find more information. Please do that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day.